Hi guys, Dr. Rob Barrington here with some more nutrition advice. I'd like to talk briefly today about green tea. Now, green tea is interesting nutritionally. Green tea has been shown to have particular health benefits, and in particular, people who regularly consume green tea appear to have a lower risk of developing cardiovascular disease and cancer. Investigations into green tea using animals, using cell culture models, and human clinical trials as well support this effect of green tea against the development of cancer and cardiovascular disease. Now, green tea contains a number of different chemicals, but the main chemicals, the main components of green tea, obviously caffeine and other methylxanthines. There are the catechins, and there is a component called L-theanine. Now, L-theanine is also in black tea. Black tea contains actually probably higher amounts of L-theanine than green tea, and also we have the same methylxanthines in black tea as we do in green tea, and they're what gives tea some of its stimulatory effect. Caffeine acts on the central nervous system on adenosine receptors, and that causes a stimulatory effect of the central nervous system. L-theanine actually gets into the brain, and it actually modulates the alpha wave behavior of your brain, which probably has a calming effect. And this is why tea is generally not so stimulatory as coffee, and that's because it has the caffeine is balanced by the L-theanine, so you get a stimulatory effect from the caffeine, but that stimulatory effect is actually quite a calming stimulatory effect because of the L-theanine content. The health effects of tea to some extent may come from the L-theanine, and they may even come from the caffeine, because caffeine does have a certain weight loss effect. However, the component of green tea that has been most heavily researched and is implicated most heavily as the protective effect against cardiovascular disease and cancer may be the catechins that it contains. Now, green tea contains a number of different catechins. Catechins, also called flavin thiols, they're a group of flavonoids, and the main catechins in green tea are catechin, you have epicatechin, you have epigallocatechin, you have epicatechin gallate, and you also have epigallocatechin gallate. I think I've got that right. They're the main flavonoids in green tea, and they're thought to be responsible for its beneficial health effects. Now, the reason I'm doing this particular video, I have covered green tea before. The reason I'm doing this video is because some people don't like green tea, and I can understand that. Green tea has a distinctive taste. If you've been brought up in the West and you drink black tea with milk, green tea does have quite a bitter taste, and I can understand why people don't want to consume it. But is there a way to get the benefits of green tea without consuming green tea? I think there is a way around this. The first option is to go to capsules. You can take green tea in capsules. Now, I don't personally recommend taking green tea in capsules for the one reason that I think it's quite an expensive way of getting your catechins. If we look at an average capsule of green tea, it may contain 500 milligrams. If we look at a tea bag, it may contain up to 5 grams of green tea. So tea is a much cheaper way of getting your catechins. You're getting 10 times as much actual green tea content in a tea bag as you are in one capsule. So you have to take a lot of capsules to be able to match having 5 or 6 cups of green tea throughout the day, and that gets very expensive. That's not to say that the capsules don't work. That's not to say if you can afford it, it's a route to go down, but personally I don't recommend it for the cost effect. Another way to get some catechins is to go to the supermarket and buy one of the blends. Now, some companies blend green tea with black tea, and that allows a certain intake of green tea to be in the diet without really noticing it. Now, I've looked at the back of the boxes of the amount of green tea that is actually put into the black tea, and I think it's about 5%, which is quite a small amount. However, black tea does have its own health effects, and if you add some green tea to the black tea, you are going to provide some health effects. So that's one option, and I've never tried these blends. Possibly I will do now I've done this video to see what they taste like, but I would assume that based on the very small amount of catechins within these blends, that the taste is very much like a black tea. Certainly from the instructions on the back, you would consume the tea the same way as you would black tea. So that's another option, although again it's not really the best way of getting high amounts of catechins into your diet. A better way, and this is the way I recommend most people to consume their catechins if they don't like green tea, is to go and get some Darjeeling tea. Now, Darjeeling tea is very interesting. To understand why Darjeeling tea is interesting, we need to look at some of the chemistry of the way that black tea and green tea is produced. Both black tea and green tea come from the same plant. They come from the Camellia sinensis plant, but they are processed in different ways. Black tea, the leaves are fermented, and in that process there is oxidation of the catechins that are within the leaves, and that oxidation process causes the production of tannins. And tannins are polymers of the oxidized catechins within the tea leaves, and they're black, which is why black tea produces a dark brew, and it is why you can use tannins to stain things. They are very useful, and they're actually used as dyes to stain particular materials. So tannins have a very distinct chemical properties compared with the original flavonoids. There are catechins in black tea, but the amount obviously is quite small because most of them are oxidized to tannins. Green tea, in contrast, is not fermented. It's simply dried, and it's minimally processed, and sometimes the leaves are just simply dried and rolled. And because of this, most of the catechins in the original tea plant are protected, and therefore the catechin content of green tea is very high, as it is in the original tea leaves. When you brew green tea, it's obviously green because it retains its original properties, and the catechins pass into solution and they produce a green colour in the tea. Now, if you have a look at Darjeeling tea is quite interesting because it is partly fermented. It's not fermented to the same degree as black tea, but there is some fermentation there, so you get the production of tannins. Some of the catechins are converted into tannins. Now, in a green tea, around 30% of the dry weight is actually these flavin-thiols, these catechins. So they're in very high concentrations in the tea. Now, the Darjeeling tea, depending on how it's actually fermented, may retain quite a high percentage of these flavin-thiols. But it also possesses some of the taste flavours, some of the taste of black tea. So when you brew a Darjeeling tea, you use it in the same way as a black tea, and the taste of it is not too dissimilar from black tea. But it does have very high concentrations of these flavin-thiols. Now, that's really my recommendation. If you want to take in high levels of flavin-thiols, if you want to go down that route and you don't want to spend lots of money on capsules, and you think that the green tea blends with their small addition of the green tea into the black tea is not suitable, and you want more catechins in your diet, I would suggest you have a look at Darjeeling tea. It's actually a very interesting nutritionally, but it's actually got quite a distinctive taste. If you're used to black tea, it might take you a while to get used to it, but it's certainly not as bitter as green tea. And the advantage of Darjeeling tea is that you add milk to it in the same way as you do black tea, and it, at the same time, is providing you with some tannins and some catechins, both of which possibly have health effects in humans. They both certainly have antioxidant effects. effects. The catechins are possibly the most beneficial component of tea, but certainly tannins have been investigated and shown to have beneficial effects. So drinking a combination of black tea and green tea is the best way to go. But if you don't like green tea, try and get your catechins from Darjeeling tea. You simply add milk, but one thing to note is when you make the Darjeeling tea, it does look kind of green. You can see the catechins in there. You add the milk to it and it looks almost like you haven't actually put any tea in there, because it's not got the same black dark colour, because it's absent of many of the tannins of normal black tea. So it does look very milky after you've made it, but that's because of the high amounts of catechins that are present there. And when you taste it, you find that it's not actually that bitter, and you can't really taste the green. You can't really relate it to green tea. It does taste like a black tea. So that's my recommendation. Anybody that's interested in their health, that wants to take in more of these catechins that have been shown to be beneficial to your health, have a look at Darjeeling tea. It's not only very healthy, but it also has a very nice taste, and I think you'll agree that if you try it, if you haven't tried it already, it's actually a very good addition to a healthy diet.